Hey, Crosspointe family and anybody else joining in, and welcome to What's the Point, where we are ultimately asking what the preacher in Ecclesiastes is asking is what's the point? Where each week we'll come in where we'll bring some more application in from the Sunday before, or we'll look ahead to the Sunday coming up. In this segment, I want to do both. So last week we began to seek with the preacher, trying to find the meaning of life, the gain of life, or if not, if you can't find the meaning, at least an escape. And so he begins to head down the road in chapter 2 of self-indulgence or pleasure, where he tells his heart, go after whatever you want. And he went to comedy, he went to wine, he went to possession and power, passion, you name it, he went after it. And at the end, he comes up and says, all is vanity, all is hevel, it's frustrating, it doesn't satisfy, it's not long, it's not lasting. It's like chasing after the wind, there's nothing new under the sun. And we looked at how we apply that in our life Sunday morning, but to go a step further, remember this whole section is about me, myself, and I. The preacher's trying to find life with a me, myself, and I mentality. The meaning of life has to be satisfying me, myself, and I. Now, when we get to the Gospels, Jesus flips that upside down. He actually says the one who loses his life will actually find it. Like the way where you find life is actually not in trying to gain life and live life to the fullest, but actually whenever you lose your life. Remember, John the Baptist said about himself that he must decrease so that Jesus can increase. That ultimately, for the believer, where we find life is not in the me, myself, and I seeking the pleasures of life, YOLO in it, if you will, but it's in denying ourselves. It's seeking after Christ that he may be glorified in our life. And ultimately what we find ourselves whenever he's glorified in us is when we'll find satisfaction in him. Whenever we're living to seek his kingdom, we're living to seek his will. Our marriages will be more pleasurable, not whenever we're seeking a me, myself, and I mentality, but when we're seeking to honor Christ by how we serve our spouse, the way that we love our kids, the way that we experience work, the way that we experience all the blessings of the Lord, when we use them as signposts to glorify him, knowing they're from him, not as the end and the source of our joy. And so ultimately, we read that Christ, he himself came to seek and to serve and to give his life as a ransom for others. And so that you and I, where we find satisfaction that lasts, is living for a kingdom that is not here. And not living life as under the sun, as the preacher says, but seeking something greater. That my life is found only when I surrender it and give it to Christ. That we are seeking after him, for him to be made known. That's where lasting satisfaction and pleasure, if you will, are found. Now, as he continues the journey in chapter 2, where we'll get this Sunday, he begins to contrast. It's like he starts with wisdom. He can't make what's crooked straight. We see in chapter 1, he can't count what's not there. So then he goes to pleasure. Pleasure didn't satisfy, so he circles back, kind of like me and you if we lost something. We go look for something, we can't find it. We always go back to where we think it should be. So he goes back to wisdom and begins to contrast wisdom and folly. And there's almost a bright spot when he says, I have come to the conclusion that it is better to live wise than to live foolish. It's better to live in light than darkness. The one who has wisdom has his eyes on his head. He can see where he's going. But then he comes to kind of a fork in the road, almost a dead end. Whenever he thinks, you know what? But the issue is that for the wise man or the man who lives foolishly, they both experience the same things in life under the sun. Jesus says that rain falls on the just and the unjust. But the great equalizer for both the wise and the foolish, for the godly and the ungodly, is that we all will ultimately experience the same end, and that's death. And so he begins to wrestle with the fact that no matter how we live, that death is something that none of us can escape. And so throughout the rest of chapter 2, we'll begin to navigate, as he navigates, what do we do with that? What do we do with the reality that no matter how much money I have right now, when I die, somebody else is going to be in charge of it. No matter what kingdom I build right now, when I die, it's going to be given to the hands of somebody else. And so how do we, with that frustration, now in a good world, that would be handed off to somebody who cares about it and they take it and build it. But the reality is that we could hand it off to somebody who doesn't care about it and make a waste of it. And then what was the purpose? That's the hevel, that's the frustration. So how does he navigate that great equalizer between wisdom and folly, living godly or ungodly, knowing that all will come to the same end, and that is death? Where's the hope? How do we navigate that? And so maybe you have that same question of, if all there is in life is that we live and we die, what's the purpose of living for God now? That's the question we'll begin to answer this Sunday. So hope that you can make it. 10 a.m. Crosspointe Church. See you then.